So, one of the highly debated topics right now is whether or not AI is currently in a bubble. Since there has been the explosive growth in generative AI and certain stocks have rocketed to stardom, many people are speculating that AI is a bubble, combined with the fact that many of the pitfalls of generative AI are unlike any technology that we've ever seen. Some people are beginning to question AI's economic value and whether or not this entire thing is a house of cards. Currently on screen, you can see two popular videos released by YouTubers in the finance slash information space that have released, I wouldn't call these hit pieces, but videos in which they document why the AI bubble is bursting. Now, in this video, I'm going to, of course, firstly talk about some of their points, and not just these videos, but recent reports from Goldman Sachs and other investment firms speaking about the pitfalls of generative AI. I do want to say that this is something that I actually disagree with, despite potentially having a biased opinion as someone who does have an AI channel. I will say that there are many different factors that many people are simply overlooking, which just absolutely doesn't make sense. I'm going to dive into the details and let's get into why AI is most certainly not in a bubble. Now, one of the things that they keep on referencing is the dotcom bubble. The dotcom bubble, also referred to as the internet bubble, refers to the period between 1995 and 2000 when investors pumped money into the internet-based startups in the hopes that these fledgling companies would soon turn a profit. During this time, companies skyrocketed their valuation just based on the fact that they added .com. Now, of course, one thing that was with the .com bubble that many people are continually forgetting is that the internet actually did bring about tons and tons of economic value to the world. And so I think comparing these things without remembering the fact that the .com bubble, despite its ability to have some comparisons, did actually yield a true economic gain across many different sectors and industries. There was also a recent report from Sequoia. They've called it AI's $600 billion question. The AI bubble is reaching a tipping point. Navigating what comes next will be essential. Now, this is one of the main questions that they do talk about. I'm going to show you guys. They talk about where is all the revenue. Essentially, I'm going to read this small part here. It says, at that time in December 2023, I noticed a big gap between the revenue expectations implied by the AI infrastructure build-out and the actual revenue growth of the AI ecosystem, which is a proxy for end user value. I describe this as a $125 billion hole that needs to be filled for each year of capex at today's levels. The question on where is all the revenue in terms of the big gap between revenue expectations and, of course, the AI build-out, it's a question of understanding the fact that what many people are investing in is not current AI expectations. But if we take a look at the next 5 to 10 years of AI, when true transformative AI is expected to be here, those capable AI systems are very likely going to be capturing large amounts of economic value. One thing that I've seen time and time again from many people publishing reports is that they can't seem to fathom why companies are spending billions of dollars on AI build-out infrastructure if there isn't any current economic value. But what many people haven't realized, and I'm not sure why this is that many companies are betting on the late stage AI, or as I would put it, companies are not actually betting on AI. They're betting on AGI, which many people are overlooking. And I'll dive into this further later. Now, there was also another article which covered Jim Covello from Goldman Sachs, who says that he believes that AI will cost trillions and doesn't believe that it will fundamentally change lives. He says that AI technology is expensive and inaccurate, and that's very unlikely to change. You can see here, it says, but for now, Covello remains a skeptic about the truly transformational AI use cases. I haven't seen any yet, and I don't anticipate there's going to be any yet. I mean, I'm not trying to be someone who is just a complete AI bull or a complete AI doomer, but to say that there are no transformational AI use cases is just completely false. A quick look at the GPT-4o demo, and we could clearly see that even a voice AI system is going to provide many different use cases that are going to be used across a wide range of industries. Now, I guess you could argue that these might not be truly transformational, but you have to remember adoption cycle. Right now, we are still in the early stages of adoption to where there is still that question of, should we actually use these technologies? You have to understand people don't just start using technology all at once. There are the people who are early. There, of course, are the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and of course, the laggard. Now, this statement right here, I have to say that I disagree with not seeing any transformational AI use cases and stating that there's not going to be any. I mean, it just seems like that person isn't paying attention. And I know that might be crude for me to say that, but I just truly don't understand where that statement even comes from. It continues to state that the bank's head of equity global research, Covello, is a technology industry veteran who has witnessed 30 years of transformative shifts, such as the invention of the internet, the e-commerce revolution, and the adoption of smartphones, and much, much more. I put this in here to show you guys that this person isn't by any means someone who doesn't have the experience to understand transformative technology. But I think what this does show us is that if someone with this much experience is underestimating the capabilities of AI, it's a trend that we've seen time and time again. And that trend is one of underestimating AI's capabilities is something that you never want to do. Because all it takes is one breakthrough, one research paper, or one transformative discovery to revolutionize what the landscape understands, and of course, the coming application. Now, one of the things that has been said about this is that this is too expensive. As previously Sequoia said, the $125 billion question, or now the $600 billion question, is one that many people are thinking all of this expenditure, and for what? You can see here that the potential use cases of these technologies were apparent from their inception. And this is in reference to the internet and of course the telephone, but Covello sees no comparable roadmap for applications of AI today. At best, Covello sees AI as a tool that can make existing tasks easier or more efficient, and at worst, it's hallucinating virtual assistant. And of course, this is referring to Google's pizza glue, where if you asked how to make pizza stickier with cheese, they recommended glue because it essentially pulled data from Reddit. Now, this doesn't really make sense. Saying that AI is only going to make tasks easier or more efficient and at worst be a hallucinating assistant doesn't factor in all of the things that AI is going to do, considering the rate of improvement in the future. But anyways, let's tackle the first thing. The point here that I was actually meant to reference was the fact that Covello points out that AI use cases replacing low-cost jobs with very costly technology, the opposite of other developments he's seen. And here he says, most technology transitions in history have been a less expensive solution, replacing a costly solution. He points out the e-commerce revolution, where Amazon was able to rapidly take market share away from traditional brick and mortar retailers due to the lower storefront cost. However, I don't think he's also factored into this. You see, I also read Goldman Sachs' report, and this was rather interesting. You can see here that someone also comments on the too expensive fallacy being just that, a fallacy. He says that AI technology is undoubtedly expensive today, and the human brain is 10,000 times more effective per unit of power in performing cognitive tasks versus generative AI. But the technology's cost equation will change, just as it always has in the past. In 1997, a Sun Microsystems server cost $64,000. Within 3 years, the server's capabilities could be replicated with a combination of x86 chips. The point here is that whilst yes, generative AI is currently expensive, we know that once technology is being built, usually it is always going to be quite expensive and a lot bigger than it needs to be. If we look back at previous computers, those things were huge. I mean, if you look at the computer / the code that put the people on the moon, those things were very inefficient. And if we look at mobile phones and TVs and how much those have slimmed down and changed in the past, we can see that technology usually gets rapidly more efficient and rapidly more cheap. And even recently, there was GPT-4o Mini. You can see here that Sam Altman talks about how way back in 2022, the best model in the world was Text DaVinci 003. It was much more worse than this new model, and it cost 100 times more. So essentially, if we look at GPT-3 costing 100 times more than the current model now, we can see that intelligence is currently decreasing. Whilst yes, the build-outs are still very expensive, we are still headed in one direction. Now, another thing that Covello points out, and I just have to disagree with this as well, because I've been paying attention to the research papers and all of the developments surrounding frontier models. He says that to those who argue that AI will become smarter through further training, Covello points out that these models have already consumed copious amounts of data and are quite far along in their training. In fact, big tech is rapidly running out of data to train it on. Now, this is a good point, and I'm going to continue this point. Let's just take a look at this. He says, technology that is highly skilled at analyzing historical data, but unable to apply it to new situations, won't dramatically change our everyday lives or replace any high-value jobs. If AI doesn't actually have the ability to conduct higher-order reasoning, it won't leave a $1 trillion impact on the economy. Now, Let's actually break down this statement, okay? One of the first things that he said here was that these models have already consumed copious amounts of data and are quite far along in their training. That is a true statement. However, frontier labs are already differing in how they actually utilize these models with new techniques. For example, a growing approach is neurosymbolic AI. This is where we use large language models with different kind of agentic architectures or with tools or with different sampling methods to get AI systems that are much more robust in terms of their reliability and their reasoning capabilities. This means that when we have future models experimenting in different training methods, we're very likely to get systems that are much smarter than ourselves. One of the key callbacks that we can continue to mention is AlphaGo. It was a system that was able to get truly extraordinary abilities just based on human level data, but once it trained on synthetic data where it played against itself, it was truly able to surpass all humans in its environment. And I do believe that once these frontier labs are starting to focus on that area, that's when we're going to see the increase in reliability and, of course, the increase in how these systems perform. But what this also doesn't take into account is the fact that there are still 2 more training cycles before we actually exhaust these kinds of capability. So stating that they're quite far along in their training doesn't account for the next 2 orders of magnitude to which we will get a lot more reliability and a lot more robustness in terms of what these models are already allowed to do. And what this also doesn't take into account is the agentic architectures that are built around these models that give us an additional 10 to 25% in terms of performance increases. Now, this second slide here is pretty self-explanatory. If AI doesn't have the ability to conduct higher order reasoning, it won't leave $1 trillion impact on the economy. Now, if you've even been paying any kind of attention to the space, one of the things that everyone is now focused on is higher order reasoning. People at Google DeepMind and the folks at OpenAI and at Anthropic, their main focus is, of course, conducting reasoning, because this allows the model to be applied to many different situations, including novel scenarios. Now, recently, OpenAI even spoke about how they're approaching the stage of reasoners and how their next frontier model, GPT-5, is very likely to be at that of a PhD, which means that as these models increase in their capabilities, as the scale increases, and as we figure out ways to conduct higher order reasoning, which we know is going to happen, $1 trillion impact on the economy is most certainly going to be likely. Now, here is Bill Gates also talking about the AI bubble and comparing it to the 1990 fiasco when we had the internet bubble.
Multiples aren't as high as they were, say, during the internet bubble. And the growth is real. I mean, AI is not pets.com. This is something very, very fundamental. So don't take my view on any particular stock, but the growth potential, there will be some big winners in this AI space, which is why you see all the leading tech companies, including Microsoft, putting tens of billions of dollars into not just the back-end capacity, but re-engineering their applications so that you're far more productive.
So you think that the excitement that we're seeing in these valuations is fully warranted by the potential?
The excitement we're seeing, absolutely. Any particular stock, I'm not really commenting on, but we're not out of control. We're seeing a fundamental advance as important as any in the history of digital technology.
Bill Gates, like many, have a different approach because I think he understands that whilst, yes, there is a lot of hype, it's not hype for any reason. The technology is truly transformative, and I think the majority of people who are in this space are not looking at what it can currently provide, but looking forward to seeing where if there are only a few more breakthroughs, the technology is going to be truly transformative. Many of those who are analyzing and looking at current data and current expenditure and current applications are failing to realize the long-term effects of what this technology is able to do. Now, in Goldman Sachs' actual report, there was also another thing here. We can see that it talks about how skeptics miss these 3 things. Eric Sheridan says, again, I readily acknowledge that the return on invested capital visibility is currently low, and the transformative potential of AI will remain hotly debated until that becomes clearer. But AI skeptics miss 3 key things. 1, training on existing historical data to inform and drive analytical outcomes in the future exactly sounds like going to university. People go to learn and then improve productivity and efficiency for decades after graduation, and machines can absolutely do the same. Number 2, machines today can do a whole host of tasks more productively and more efficiently than humans, and that will remain true for decades into the future. And 3, people didn't think they needed smartphones, Uber, or Airbnb before they existed. But today, It seems unthinkable that people ever resisted such technological progress, and that will almost certainly prove true for generative AI technology as well. Now, one of the things I always wanted to emphasize in this video is that AGI is completely different to AI. AI, of course, is something that has a variety of different use cases and many different applications, from narrow AI to self-driving AI to algorithmic AI. But I think AGI is going to be the main focus of these frontier labs. And I think that is completely different to the standard AI that they might be thinking about. The reason I'm talking about AGI is because the economic value of AGI is in the tens of trillions of dollars, and some are speculating it could capture up to 10% of the world's GDP. This is because if you truly understand what an artificially general intelligence system is able to do, it's able to pretty much do any task better than any human. And that would seriously unlock a huge level of economic value for those that own it. Now, here's Sam Altman in an interview basically talking about the fact that these expenditures don't really matter because they're going to build AGI.
Whether we burn 500 million a year or 5 billion or 50 billion a year, I don't care. I genuinely don't. As long as we can, I think, stay on a trajectory where eventually we create way more value for society than that, and as long as we can figure out a way to pay the bills, like, we're making AGI. It's going to be expensive. It's totally worth it.
And the reason Sam Altman has said that it's totally worth it is because if you can actually get to AGI, you are truly going to be reaping the rewards of that like no other company has ever seen. And you have to understand as well is that these giant companies, there's only 3 or 4 of them that can really compete at the frontier scale. You've got Anthropic, Meta, Google, OpenAI, Apple if they want to play in the game, but there's not too many different players here. And we haven't really seen insane valuations that aren't backed by actual revenues of these companies. Even Nvidia actually has the billions of dollars due to the fact that there has been increasing investment into the space. Now, one of the things that people need to understand is that this stuff isn't decades away. It's only 3 years away. If you've been paying attention to situational awareness, the intelligence explosion section, in which we can see how future AI systems are going to get increasingly more capable, we know that around 2028 to 2027, there is likely to be the intelligence explosion, or that will be the area in which many predict we do get AGI. Now, when I'm talking about predictions for AGI, one thing that I've realized and one thing that I've come to notice is that these predictions are not made by people who are hyping up products. So for example, in some industries, some people predict that, this technology is going to be here so that they can drive more investment into the space. A lot of the predictions that I'm seeing about AGI are from actual esteemed researchers who are at these frontier companies leading the way in terms of what these systems are capable to do, which means that their statements aren't to be taken lightly. Their statements are backed by decades of research and looking forward on what's probably to come. Now, this chart right here is by someone who worked on superalignment at OpenAI. And he said that this isn't something that is out of the question. Believing in superintelligence isn't something that you need faith in. It just needs you to look at lines on a graph and you'll see that superintelligence is most certainly possible. One of the key things also that people need to remember is that the only thing that these frontier labs need to do is automate AI research, and then everything from there on out is quite easy. The reason I say that is because once you automate AI research, then the company's automated itself, and everything off the back end is just going to be pure profit in terms of what you're going to be able to do with an increasingly powerful system. Now, here we have James Bettker basically saying that we're only 2 to 3 years away from System 2 thinking, which is this incredible level of reasoning that's going to be able to do other things. I did cover this in the video, but I'm going to read you guys. They're too long to read. In summary, we've basically solved building world models, have 2 to 3 years on System 2 thinking, and 1 to 2 years on embodiment. The latter two can be done concurrently. Once all of the ingredients have been built, we need to integrate them together and build the cycling algorithm I described above. I'd give that another 1 to 2 years. So my current estimate is 3 to 5 years for AGI. I'm leaning towards 3 for something looks at an awfully general intelligent embodied agent, which I would personally call an AGI, then a few more years to refine it to the point that we can convince the skeptics of the world. So that is an OpenAI research engineer. And not only did he state this, but there is also someone who left DeepMind because he believes that AGI is only 3 years away. There was also Mustafa Suleyman, the co-founder of DeepMind and currently the CEO of Microsoft's AI team. He says, certainly before the end of the decade, we are not just going to have those capabilities, but those capabilities are going to be widely available for very cheap, potentially even in open source. And he said that potentially this tech will be able to run a business within the next 5 years, and AI might be able to act like an entrepreneur and an inventor. We can also see that Sam Altman has said that he's questioned on when he thinks AGI will be a reality. It's 5 years, give or take, maybe slightly longer, but no one knows exactly when or what it will mean for society. We also have Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, talking about when he believes AGI will be achieved.
Like a human child learning and developing, they're getting better and better, smarter and smarter, more and more knowledgeable in 2025, 2026, maybe 2027. There is, in my mind, a good chance that by that time we'll be able to get models that are better than most humans at most things.
What is catastrophic risk?
So, considering the fact that we have the majority of AI researchers and the majority of CEOs at Frontier Labs basically saying that we've got 3 to 5 years before AGI, most of them leaning towards 3 years, and considering the fact that if we look at the data and we pay attention to the graphs of where superintelligence and these truly capable systems are going to be, while yes, the spending initially is going to be expensive, I think long term, this is going to be a clear technological revolution that most people are overlooking. If AI were to be in a bubble, whilst yes, if you do look at the private equity area where money is being raised in the millions and millions of dollars, it isn't being raised at a stage to where you can say that the valuations are absolutely crazy. And in order for it to be a bubble, there would need to be tons and tons of valuations with little to no revenue. So with that being said, I would have to say that I completely disagree that AI is in a bubble. And whilst yes, these videos do make for enticing clickbait headlines and stating that AI is dying, I just think there is the trough of disillusionment in the Gartner hype cycle. Now, I think the AI hype is going to be there once again when the next round of frontier capability systems are released, such as Gemini 2, Claude 3.5 Opus, and of course GPT-5. But as someone that's in the space, I can say that when AI does become a bit bubbly, you'll be the first to know about it on this channel. And whilst yes, you might think this is completely biased because my channel is about AI, trust me when I tell you I can remain completely unbiased because it wouldn't make sense for me to continue to invest in something if it wasn't a bubble. So with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, I'd love to see your thoughts and comments in the comment section below, and hopefully have a great rest of your day.